Hey guys, welcome back to Weekends. Anna, Nando, and Abby Martin with us. She is the host and producer of Empire Files. Please follow that account on YouTube. It's absolutely excellent. Abby, thank you for joining us. So today I was watching your documentary on Afghanistan. It was one of the most comprehensive docs I've seen on, our involvement in Afghanistan, going back to, what motivated the United States to invade the country in the first place. And so I thought we would start off discussing Afghanistan since it's been in the news again lately, not for all the reasons we would hope, but because there is this ongoing narrative regarding how Russia is allegedly arming and assisting the Taliban in attacking U.S. soldiers in the country. Now, tell me what you think about that narrative and whether or not you buy any of it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things about the narrative that we need to dissect here. The first is that outlets everywhere just cited this as fact. And when you dig into the story, that every outlet was just kind of running with that headline that Russia's paying bounties to kill U.S. soldiers, it was all predicated on anonymous U.S. intelligence officials, basically with no evidence backing it up. And you even saw the New York Times say that they disagreed within the intelligence community that this was a fact, specifically the NSA. And I think that the logic itself doesn't hold up. Why would the Taliban need Russian money to kill U.S. soldiers? I mean, they've been fighting the U.S. for the last 20 years there. It doesn't seem logical to have to get Russian money in order to kill the enemy on the battlefield, right? But I think, moreover, it says a lot about the priorities of American citizens and the journalistic community as a whole, and kind of this Beltway establishment press that only seems to care about U.S. soldiers dying when it involves Russia. This is a needless, endless slaughter that's been happening for the last 20 years where soldiers are dying all the time. And for some reason, people only are outraged about it when it involves Russia being involved in the killing of them.
Yeah, you do talk about the number of U.S. soldiers who get killed in these wars, and it gets ignored in the press. You mention it in the documentary that I referenced, and I just want to go to a quick snippet of that doc just to give the audience a little of that flavor, because it really was well done. Take a look.
When polled, 90% of the Afghan people strongly support a deal with the Taliban. Here are Afghan women and Afghan army soldiers who had just been fighting them, taking selfies with the Taliban during a ceasefire in 2018. But since the negotiations are dictated by the US, not Afghans, it wields impossible language that gives Washington a blanket excuse to break it at any time. For example, many were shocked that the major peace deal finally signed between the US and the Taliban on February 29th of this year signified that U.S. bases would, in fact, be closed. But it was a farce. The alleged U.S. withdrawal was all premised on the Taliban, quote, preventing any individual or organization from threatening the U.S. How could something like that ever be enforced or accomplished? How could it even be measured? The supposed political achievement was on such a flimsy foundation that it only took 4 days for the U.S. to call it off and start bombing the Taliban again. The constant tease of a peace deal with the Taliban seems to only serve the purpose of assuring the public that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Without the constant promise by Trump saying there's going to be a great deal, Washington would just have to admit that there is no end in sight.
It's so fascinating because the narrative really has been that Donald Trump, and honestly, I take ownership of this. I've repeated this narrative that Trump is different, that he genuinely does want to end the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan, but you found evidence contrary to that.
Right, and I think this is a pet peeve of mine, and I'm not calling out you. Obviously, I think that you're an excellent journalist. I think that a lot of people believe in the rhetoric that Trump tweets randomly, like end the endless wars, right? Or he'll say the Taliban wants to make a deal, we're going to get out of Afghanistan. And it's hard to kind of break through that. And I obviously focus specifically on foreign policy. So I read the deal and I realized that the deal is not what it seems to be. This is a deal that's been in place or teased to us since the Obama administration, actually. I mean, Trump I think a lot of the people got the story wrong when they said the intelligence community. I even saw people saying, the deep state is preventing Trump from ending the war that he wants to end. And it's just really fascinating because Trump is a con artist, right? He cynically exploits that rhetoric to appeal to both anti-war and pro-war voices. But anti-war people continue to fall for it. Trump doubled the amount of troops in Afghanistan when he came to office. He increased bombing. The fatalities there are higher than they've ever been. But when it comes to the deal basically says that we need a U.S. permanent fixture there. This is why we've not left Afghanistan yet. I mean, there's potentially $3 trillion of mineral wealth there, and they want the U.S. to be dictating the terms of that deal. If you look at it logically, it would be like saying we can't leave Vietnam until we reach a deal with the Viet Cong. I mean, we've known that we've lost the war, right, for over 10 years. There's no military strategy out of this. It's time to just leave. Take all the troops out, deal or not. The U.S. should be not dictating the future of the Afghan citizens. And it's just ludicrous to say that we need to stay there until a deal is made anyway.
And Abby, this might be like a bullshit kind of CNN anchor question, but there's a very good chance that in November, Joe Biden wins the election. Do you foresee any major policy shift on Afghanistan should the Joe Biden administration take power in January of 2021?
In the documentary, we show Biden's rhetoric on Afghanistan. I mean, look, Biden was vice president during the Obama administration, where Obama installed the massive troop surge, where we saw, countless numbers of troops trying to, quote unquote, win the war. It was a massive failure. It ended up just causing ridiculous amount of amputations, triple amputations, and also just fatalities for U.S. soldiers and countless Afghan civilians. And we can't forget the Afghanistan papers, which showed that specifically under the Obama administration, I mean, they just lied to the public over and over again once they knew that there was no strategy to win. And they just kind of had general replacing general out there lying to the public just to pass off the problem to the next administration. So Biden shouldn't be off the hook for that. And he also was asked recently, would you maintain a presence in Afghanistan? And he said, yes, I would, to the tune of several thousand troops. Of course, I think Biden would be more movable than the Trump administration. I think that, leftists and having an anti-war movement that links U.S. imperialism and continues to talk about Black and brown people being slaughtered abroad as well as at home, obviously more able to push a Democratic administration than a Trump administration. And for the reasons that I said before, there seems to be some confusion that Trump is really doing, what's really happening behind the scenes. So I do think that Biden would be more movable, but at the same time, I think it's really, really apparent that this is a bipartisan, unanimous thing. Imperialism is supported by both parties, and the war machine continues to win no matter who's president.